5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Welcome, welcome to the Empower Hour. I am Hanifa,
And I'm Al Kumar.
and we are your hosts each and every Monday at 8 p.m., where we discuss taboo topics in our community. And so today we have a special guest on. Bear with me 1 minute. I'm making sure I can see everything. Okay, I see us. And here we go. All right. Let me make the zoom bigger. Good. All right. Hi,
Hello.
guys. Welcome, Jasir. Your first time on the Empower Hour. We are excited to have you and to have this conversation with you. How are you feeling today, brother?
On top of the world.
On
Yay.
top of the world. Okay. Make oh shoot, I have a feedback. Make sure that when you guys tune in, make sure you share the live. Okay. Just say, like we told you, just share from the Empower Hour page. And yeah, okay. We can get started. All right. So today we will be discussing merging spirituality and manhood. And I reached out to you, Jasir, because we've had a couple of guests on, and one of the things that we kept this talking, like in our debriefing and so forth, um, we kept talking about this, where the space is for our men. And I know on one of our episodes, we had a couple on, and that conversation came up. And when it was asked where the safe spaces for our men to do this healing and all of these things, I think there was only one person that was able to give some information. I would say probably tops two. Now, if it was woman, it probably would have like a whole list of, she can go here, she can go there, she can go there. So I wanted to bring you on. We wanted to have you on so we can have a conversation about this, because I know some of what you do is kind of built around that, around the masculine, right? And creating space for growth and development and healing to happen. So, first of all, why don't you tell our listening audience who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
Well, I am Jasir. My spiritual name is Makanjuala. I am an Ifa Awo. I run an organization, I co-founded an organization called Oriani. It's located at oriani.com, which basically means one head with a higher power. And within that organization, I created months ago, maybe like 8 months ago, I created an organization within that organization called Minergy.
Okay.
Because of that very, very issue. Because me growing up where I grew up, it was rough. And men don't have an outlet to let that out. You have to hold it in and you have to be tough. And there's a reason why we die before our women. We got to hold it in. So me having an organization called One Head, it just came to me basically from some stuff I was dealing with. And I said, it's time to have something kind of organization like this. And I'm the type of person I'm about action. I can't just talk about it. I got to see some action happen. So I created something called Mid-Energies, where we come together for 4 weeks. And I give them the spiritual side versus the worldly side, and let them decide what makes more sense to them. Oh, last thing, I'm from LA. You said, where are you from? I said, I'm from LA. Not Louisiana, but Los Angeles.
Okay. So the idea of Menergy, with Menergy, can you talk a little bit about Menergy? Exactly what is it? What does it entail? Why is it important for our community?
Because we were taught how to be men wrong. As we dig into spirituality, you learn what spirituality teaches us, and you start.
Uh-oh.
You're freezing up, brother. Let's see if he comes back in.
Here we go.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I forgot where I left off, so I'll start from the beginning.
You were taught wrong as men.
Okay. So yeah, we were taught wrong as men. As men, we're taught to be tough. Like I said before, hold it in. It's weak to be vulnerable. All those things. It's weak to be, especially with your woman. It's weak to be vulnerable with your woman and tell the truth how you really feel. And I found myself in that space multiple times. If a man goes through something, his friends doesn't want to hear it. If a man, his heart is broken by a woman he just lost, he can't tell his friends that. Right? So we were taught how to be men wrong, period, point blank. And when you get into spirituality, as I've been in the last 11 years or so, I've learned that I learned it wrong. Me dealing with the woman I was with and me learning what I was learning, I was like, I got this backwards. And I had to lose a few women in that process to understand that, bro, you got to break this down and do something different. It's obviously not working. So when I dug more deep into my spiritual practice, and someone gave me a list of characteristics that a follower of the practice that I do has to do and has to follow, I was like, I ain't doing none of these. That's why it's not working. So then when I have the conversation with other men, they think just like me. I know a whole lot of men that think just like I used to think. And when I bring up the conversation about what I'm moving towards, they fought against it. And I could never really get an answer to that. So that's kind of why I had to build Menergy, because even in the classes that I teach, like I said, it's a 4-week class. In the classes that I teach, I get men from all walks of life, but they all have one common denominator. They don't know how to be vulnerable. They don't know how to be soft at the right times. I'm not saying 24 hours a day soft, because you need to learn how to shift gears and be a man at some point. But at the same time, it's not a 24-hour job to be hardcore.
So how okay, so you're talking about socialization here, right? Just how men are socialized. So a lot of what you're discussing is sort of embedded, okay? So how does a man begin to undo that? Because if they're still in the society that have socialized them in that manner to where they are scorned for being vulnerable or what some would perceive as weak, how do they begin to that? And I get it, like Menergy sounds like a space that they could begin that process, but what does that undoing look like?
Vulnerability, period. Like, you got to get to a space to where it just doesn't matter what somebody else thinks anymore. And I've been in that space before a couple of times, where your heart is broken and you just there by yourself. And if you get to that space, you have a decision: keep going down the same road that has you in this space, or make a different decision. Now, the thing is, it's not a lot of this information being taught. You don't get this anywhere. Again, we don't have the spaces to do that. So there's no places to go get that. I just happen to be lucky enough to be in a spiritual practice that I'm in, and to have the teachers around me that have shown me certain things. So it looks like basically telling the truth. No, being honest versus telling the truth. And to me, there's two different things. They're not the same.
Alkema, you have a question?
I did. I had one to tell you. You had mentioned that you had some scenarios in your own life in relationships that didn't go well, and you had looked back and realized there were some things that you were doing that weren't beneficial. Can you give us some examples of some of those things, those aha moments for you?
Where do I start with that one? I'll give you the latest one. I was married about 2 years ago, and we broke up, obviously. But during that marriage, I was carrying like the machismo mentality throughout that process. And I couldn't understand what she was asking me for, because in my mind, I was doing what a man was supposed to do, and being vulnerable wasn't one of them all the time. So during the process, like I told you, I was doing my spiritual thing. And one of my Baba Laos, he would always tell me, Baba, you got to be more patient with her. You got to be more patient. And I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, I can't be patient when I'm in the middle of a situation right now. Like, what does that mean? Give me a scenario. And I couldn't understand what he was talking about at the time. We broke up, long story short. And like I said, when we broke up, it broke my heart to be vulnerable with y'all. It broke my heart that my wife is gone. So in that hurt space, I just opened completely all the way up. And when I opened completely all the way up, I began to study what he was talking about. What is patience? And in my mind, patience was being still, doing nothing before. When I studied what patience was, I said patience is not being still and doing nothing. Patience is doing the work while you're waiting for a blessing to come. Right? So in that marriage, my job should have been to not just be still and be frustrated, but to figure out what I can do to make this better for both of us and not focus on her, not focus on what's happening, not reacting to what's happening. And that's not what men are taught. It's just not what we're taught. So moving forward now, that's my train of thought is nowhere near what it used to be. So understanding that patience and allowing my heart to just break, as Yellen Van Zandt would always say in her TV show, you just got to allow your heart to just break. And when you allow your heart to break, you'll open up and let stuff in to come help you. But as long as you try to shield it, nothing's coming in. And no answers can seep in.
Gosh.
That ability to just feel.
Yeah.
A lot of times we just run from that. We run from feeling. We don't anything besides feeling those emotions. We reject, we push away, we project our emotions on the others, we deny, we put our fingers in anything besides feeling. And so you're saying once you opened up yourself to allow yourself to feel is when that healing process started to take place.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So I know, and I want to get into the whole, the Ori and just the, like what reimagining manhood, if you could kind of like walk us through that. But I wanted to just ask, as you were speaking about vulnerability, do you think that vulnerability shows up the same in women and men? Is it as simple as just being honest?
Good question.
I think it shows up on both sides.
But does it show up the same way? Like,
no, I don't see it the same way.
okay.
Because men fight it harder. See, women have a whole lot of spaces to go do their healing. So at least they're trying. You can see them trying. Men just don't do it for the most part. Some men do, but some of them are ashamed to come forward and just do that. Again, that's the reason why I'm doing my thing right now with it. But we have a women energy class and we have a men energy class. The women energy class is filled to the gills. They filled to the gill every class. But the men is like, I gotta pull teeth to get them to come in because they're afraid to put their vulnerability on the table.
I heard a brother explain it as it's hard to tell another man that you need help. It's like you're supposed to be the man, you the protector, you the provider, you the strong arm. And so to come to somebody else, another man, and say, hey, you know what I'm saying? I need you, or I need help. It's hard, it's difficult for brothers to do, more so than it is for women. Is that true? I don't know. That's just what I heard another man say.
That's very true. But see, here's the issue with that. If we just deal with just, forget spirituality and all that stuff, just deal with raw statistics. If 50% of marriages fail, there's a problem somewhere, right? If 70% of the marriages that fail are filed by women, there's a problem somewhere. You're not doing something right, man. Now, the question is, where did you learn it? Question one time in one of the energy classes, I asked him, I said, would you allow your daughter that's of teenage years? I remember that episode of Bad Boy, the second one, when Will Smith and Martin was at the front door because his girl wanted to have a date and they came to the door with 2 guns and was sweating the little boy. I asked that question, said, you know why they came to the door with that gun? because they know how they were at that age.
Mm.
They know what they would be doing to somebody else's daughter at that age, and they don't want that to happen to theirs. But that's a learned behavior passed down by other men. Other men don't tell you, brother, treat this woman this way or treat this woman. It's like notches in the belt for being disrespectful and being wrong. That's not working, because if we go back to statistics, that's why it happens. So unless we unlearn those statistic reasons, then we stay in this rat race. Black men have never learned how to be men. We have never been able to be men in this country. We've only learned how to pay bills, and that's it.
And that's kind of been a big kind of a hot topic going on of recent. I've been in a number of conversations, whether it be on Clubhouse or whatever, just having these conversations around how, men are socialized to just solely be providers from a very, very young age, to where their worth is rooted in how much they can provide. You know what I mean? Their worth is rooted in how much they make, right? And so they're socialized like that, and then they become adults, and we want them to be open and vulnerable with us. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I didn't get the instructions on that part. You know what I'm saying? Like, where you coming from? You demanded something of me that I wasn't given. You know what I mean? So there's been a lot of conversations around that. What I wanted to ask, I know, like, for women, you will hear women oftentimes not wanting to open up, even in some of these spaces that they call safe spaces. Some women are kind of apprehensive. And a lot of it has to do with distrust towards other women because of their own experiences with women, whether it be their mom, their aunts, their grandmother, whoever, who have probably betrayed them, right? Whether it be talking about them on the phone, their personal business with their friends, whatever that may be. But there are women who don't trust other women, so they don't want to open up. In your experience, are you finding that men, a part of men opening up around each other, is there distrust there the same way that we can often find, like, in the sister circles?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. Watch this. The class I said is 4 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first 2 to 3 classes, these dudes are just silent. Like, you can see they're playing double dutch if they should jump in and say something, right? But it's not until like the end of the 3rd class and definitely the 4th class before they really just start speaking, because they are afraid to let another man know that they have this same issue. And then once they open up in the 4th class, they realize that everybody has the same problem.
And what are some of those issues? Some of those basic issues that you see all the time come through your doors?
To be honest with you, it's the fact that they were hurt by a woman, usually their mother, somewhere in their life, and they taking that hurt from, I was hurt by my mother. So being hurt by your mother and that being your first lesson of how a woman is supposed to treat you, just like a woman. Like, if you have a problem with your father, you choose men based upon that trauma, right? So we do the same thing. If we have a situation with our mother, we choose women based upon how our mother hurt us, and we looking to fill that void, but we actually still stuck in that pot and that stew of drama. Same thing.
When they walk through the doors, do they understand it like that? Do they know that that is the issue coming through the door?
Like, do they connect the dots?
Absolutely not.
So can you walk us through maybe a little bit of how you come to, get that in, come to that conclusion?
I ask questions, like I said, I ask realistic questions. I'm more of an applicability person. So I'm not really into the X's and O's that much. How pliable to my life right now is this? So I ask questions like, like I said, would you allow your daughter to marry or date someone like you at your age? First thing they say is no. Well, why not? Because you know what you would have done to them. Well, now, where did you learn that from? When we think about it, we learned back because most of us didn't have our father. So we learned it from either our mother telling us how to be a man, which she don't even know either because she's not a man. She can never tell me that. She's gonna give me ideas. But then we learn it from the people on the block. So no, they come through the doors basically learned with what they already know. How I get them to that point is asking them questions, just common sense questions, just like the one I asked you that usually breaks down their guard. Because once they realize that the way they were thinking before is wrong, just by basic questions like that, like why wouldn't I want my daughter to marry me at the age? Why wouldn't I want?
Right.
Right? So if I wouldn't want that, that means something that I learned at that age is wrong.
That's
how come we talk about this all the time? Like, I've made that observation a while ago, just how many of our men have this misdirected anger. I could never really understand, and it's all connected to this thing that you see the conversation happening where Black woman is like, why do Black men keep dogging Black women, or why aren't they protect? And I'm just like, it's all connected. It's all connected, because if a man has this like warped perception of a Black woman, right, that was kind of like ingrained in him from very young, right? Not like someone sat and said you should hate Black women, but because of the things that have been done to them by Black women, right? Then you have to understand. And maybe because I don't know, I might be, maybe because I'm an empath in this sense, but a lot of us, like as women, we brush it off, right? And we brush it off. We don't want to hear it. And one of the things that I can speak for myself, Jasir, when you're talking about like men not having any space, I still to this day have to check that in myself, to where if a man shows a certain level of emotion, it's almost like my reaction is like, he needs to hurry up, get over it, like right now, in this second. Like it should not be dragged out. And I realized that that's simply because he's a man. And then I had to go and unpack that. So then I realized just how many women around me feels the same way. I just had the conversation with someone like, what is it that is a turn off to women when a man is like sickly? You know, like maybe a man gets sick, because I've been in conversation where it's just like, it's just a turn off. I don't see him the same way anymore because the man was probably going through depression, or, like, what is it about that we don't allow men to show that part of themselves? So when you talk about a safe space, they can't even find it in relationships among us sometimes. So I totally get what you're saying, because I had a lot of, I'm still undoing a whole lot of stuff around that. I'm honest enough to own that though. But with men, is there a point where, like what Alkema just asked about the connecting the dots, what happens? Do you find them maybe apprehensive to say, yes, my mother hurt me? Or is it like, yeah, I've been knowing that, but I just didn't know how to express that. I didn't want to seem disloyal. Or are they able to say like, yes, I've always known that, but I kind of just like pushed it in the back of my mind? Or is it like wow, I never thought of it that way?
It's both.
Okay.
Rhonda had a really good question. She says, do you feel that many men are afraid to express themselves emotionally because they are often punished or ridiculed for it in childhood?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, as a man growing up in South Central Los Angeles, as I told you, there was no room to be weak. No room to show vulnerability. I remember one time I got into a fight with a dude that was bigger than me. And in that time, getting into a fight with somebody was like, you better not back down, right? So I fought the dude anyway. He got the best of me the first time. I went home, told my mother what happened. Guess what she did? You better take your butt back out there and fight that boy again. I went back out, of course, terrified, to be honest with myself. I went back out. I found him. We had the conversation. He hit me. Once he hit me, it was over. I wound up winning the fight. but it was no warmth in that conversation. I'm talking to my mother, not my father. I'm talking to my mother. It was no like, baby, you okay? It was none of that. It was just, what? You better go back outside. It was like immediate. So that's the reaction for us growing up. Like, you don't have a chance to just be crying because you hurt. Suck it up. You better suck it up, boy. Keep going. Like, that's what we told. So then we get grown and get older. We get a woman. Now this woman wants us to do something just like Ia just said, something we've never been shown how to do. We've only been told to be tough and have a rough, hard exterior. That's all we've been told to do. Now you want me to be soft. Oh, okay, now you want me to shift gears. Okay, I don't know how to do that one yet. You might teach me. I don't got time to teach you. You supposed to know you a man, ain't you? What?
Khalil says we operate on ego instead of emotions. And and the Gotho says the distrust is fear of appearing less manly.
Those sound like really good bumper stickers, but ego is just a shell. I had an ego. That ego I told y'all about when it got broken from my last relationship. That ego is called a shell, or exterior protective shell. Like a turtle you run inside of when trouble comes. So that ego just stands out and protects you, so-called, from an environment that you need protection in. But nobody ever tells you it's okay to come out of that ego. They just talk about it. And they don't understand why you built that shell. When's the last time you guys asked your man, why does he act that way? Who asked it?
Why does he what?
Why does he not open up and be vulnerable? How often do you actually talk to your man about his invulnerability with you? Most women don't. No one cares about a man's vulnerability actually until they actually need access to it.
I've been told that. I asked that quite a bit, and I've been told exactly what you just said. No one cares to hear it. Yep. Yeah. So I want to get into, and I know we're going to come back to some of our questions. So you guys, if you're listening, just, throw your questions out. We're monitoring the questions. But I wanted to get into the reimagining of manhood from a spiritual perspective. Let's get into that, Jasir. What do you mean by reimagining manhood from a spiritual perspective? Why is spirituality so important as far as the development of men is concerned?
All right, now how vulnerable do you want me to be with this answer?
I want you to be real vulnerable with it, please.
Okay. So again, we've learned worldly ways and we've learned religious ways. And to me, both of those go hand in hand. Okay. So the religious and worldly ways have not worked, primarily because we have left traditions that come from our spiritual, indigenous spiritualities that comes from that. We have left those behind and have adopted these things that have been forced upon us that do not work for even the people who gave it to us. So as a spiritual person, I'll just give you a couple of, like two of them maybe. Like a spiritual person, you're supposed to be seen as a man who wants to take on someone's daughter. You're supposed to be seen as a man that is first worthy of taking on his daughter, meaning that the parents of that daughter will want you to marry them. In this day and society, nobody worries about what their parents have to say. They just get together. And the reason behind that is because once you get married to that person, you don't just marry that person in a spiritual realm, you marry their entire family.
That's right.
So if you come into their family and you're a disruption to their family, you send ripple effects to that family that throws them off of their path. So as that man coming into that family, you're supposed to have as they say, your boo-boo together. You're supposed to have your emotions intact. You're supposed to know how to shift the gears and be the man when you have to be, or be vulnerable with your woman when you need to be. You're supposed to know, again, if you're a moral person, you're going to want to earn a check. You're not going to want to sit there. No one's going to have to tell you that. So you have to be a person that, like I said, when Martin and them came to the door, if that young man was a presentable man that they would love for their daughter to be with, it would not have been guns drawn.
Yeah, funny you say that, because I think when you say your last point about you really don't want, to date yourself, really. And I see that in this current environment when it comes to a lot of these celebrities, a lot of the young hip hop celebrities in particular, and they are quick to jump out and say, I'm not nobody's role model. I don't want to be your, role model. And I think about that and I'm like, why wouldn't you want somebody to look up to you? Why wouldn't you want somebody to admire or be, you know what I'm saying, to see you as a model of how they should be? Unless there's something in there deep down inside, that something you doing ain't proper. Because if not, then you would want people to follow your lead, and you would be a good example by them. So that to me is the same kind of concept as when you describe that men be like, I wouldn't want to marry myself if I was a woman, But Curtis on the stream, Curtis says, as a Black man, vulnerability is simply not allowed. Like everything else, we seem to need to fight for the right to be fully functional individuals. The vulnerable Black man is not now, and I don't think has ever been allowed to even exist. Physically and spiritually, he is seen as obsolete and defunct, or a non-starter to begin with. Wow. That's heavy. What's your thoughts about that?
I shizzle to that. That's so
you
much.
Go into that a little bit. What does he mean, you think, when he says that we are non-factor? To whom? To what?
To our women, to society, to no one. Let's just be honest. The Black man is at the bottom of the barrel. Every particular category you can think of. So a vulnerable, emotional Black man is just completely useless in a society, the way it's structured. It's just the honest to God truth. There's no other way to cut it. No one, you guys both you ladies both just said that it's true that you guys don't really have patience with a vulnerable sensitive. You need him to fix it right now. If he can't do that with his woman, please let me know where he can.
Right. Right.
The police? Where can he do that with?
So, okay. So I just want you to not clear up, but I want you to take us a little deeper into the spiritual piece of this, right? Are we talking about the process of initiation? What are we talking about when we talk about merging manhood, masculinity with spirituality? What are we talking about here?
I want to say so many things to that question, but I'm not, and I'm gonna get myself in trouble. Number one, it's re-embracing the spiritual practices that we came from. We have to leave these religious dogmas behind.
So which ones are we talking about, Jasir?
How you trying to?
Huh?
Okay. Trying to keep you.
You can't say it now. You can't
just say what are we talking about? Because I feel like that word spiritual is kind of vague, right? It's so broad. Can you narrow it down for us, please?
Okay. So I'll say this. We've been particularly under one in this country for the last 400 years. Not even 400 years. I'll say maybe 100 and some change. Because initially we weren't even allowed to practice it. But the Christian ways of that we've been following don't work for us. They're submissive.
Uh-oh. You about to drop some folks. Our number's about to go down now. You didn't just
Let's go there.
Lord.
Asking me, I'm not disrespecting anybody. If that's what you do, God bless you. Keep going. If that's what you want to do with your life, it's your life.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're talking about actually saving our people and saving and turning this thing around, first of all, that's a religion. That's not spiritual. That's dogmatic. That's a very dogmatic religion that doesn't heal anything. It's almost like aspirins or Western medicine. It doesn't heal anything. It just patches up a wound and sends you back out to war. It's not a healer. Spirituality helps you to find out who you are, because you are the spirit. There's a difference. So this is not a disrespect to the religion. It's just an analysis of what's not working.
Mm-hmm.
And we have not yet given the spiritualities that we used to do a chance as a whole. I'll say that in this country.
I'm gonna pull this out because you made mention of a very, very touchy word, submission, and then you kind of like turned left real fast. I'm gonna bring you back. What were you going to say about submission, Jasir, as it pertains to Christianity, Jasir?
Oh, the dangerous, man. Hold on.
What is it? Because we, just give it to the listening audience. What is it? What were you going to say about submission as it pertains to Christianity and us being taught, us particularly we're talking about manhood here, and how detrimental that is to the development of Black men and progression of Black men?
Hold on, I gotta take a sip on this one. Hold on, you're gonna get me in trouble now. All right, so the submission I'm talking about it's the same submission that, since you want to be real, let's put it on the table. It's the same submission that has our women not respecting our vulnerability and respecting us as a man, because that submission sends us back into submitting to the wrong things. Like, for instance, I'll never forget this picture I saw of a protest. It wasn't even a protest. It was a Black woman that was protecting her child from being shot from some officer. You may have seen it on the internet before, but she was pushing him off of her son. The first thing in my mind is, where's the image of a Black man doing? Right? Why is it always our women that's stepping up to do stuff that we should be doing? Right? So that submission of that religion makes you bow down to the powers that be that has given you that submission that dates all the way back to a slave trade. That's how slavery was able to last so long, because you were submissive because of that religion. And it's taking place to this day to where now our women don't even feel protected, because we would allow them to be in the front doing what we're supposed to do, and that's not what a man supposed to do. That's where the submission lies for me. It's not like submissive with our women technically. Some of us would like to. We're just not being allowed to. But the submission is to submissive to an oppression that you're not willing to be a man. You'll be a man and fight each other and look like you're macho by fighting someone who looks like you that nobody else cares about anyway. But when it comes down to something that really means something, you submit to the powers that be. And that's usually behind a religion.
To your point, the most prevalent example for me recently was those 9 people that got shot up in that church. I think, where was it? South Carolina. It's a few years back. And the little young white boy came in there and it just shot up while they was praying, for God's sake. And the reaction and response to that, how the men and women, but the men in particular, got up on live television. And the first thing they said was, "I forgive him." I'm like, what? God, I mean, if they can shoot and kill your grandmother, and the first thing you decide to do is just submit to, okay, well, I gotta forgive them. To me, it's like, where's the fight? When, what I'm saying? where is the war? Where are the warring? And is there anything that could take place to you that will force you to want to get up and fight back against? So for me, that was the submission part that you talk about was so clear to me in that incident. I just found it sickening. But I'm sorry, go ahead. Or you want to? I just had to get that out.
No, that's okay, Alkema. So 1 minute, I'm just putting up my questions. So go ahead, Alkema, go ahead.
Curtis, I want to go to the stream. And Curtis says, I agree that religion as a construct and way of life no longer seems to work for us. I mean, I wonder if it ever did. Religion teaches us that spirituality requires submission to God by man and submission to man by woman. He says, today we look at submission as submitting to God, but not to each other. I think that when we say submission, we think slave. And so the word triggers, in my opinion, both men and women, but we are triggered in different ways. Hard topic made harder by that word. He brought up some really good points. The submission part, he says, today we look at submission as submitting to God, but not to each other.
Well, I'm not here to submit to a man. That's just not what my job is. My only submission is to the creator who sent me to this planet in the first place. But submission is not supposed to be to a man.
No, I think he's saying to like a submission to your a man to his woman and a woman to her man.
Yeah. I mean, here's the deal. This is what I'm always teaching the guys that I talk to. Like, once you submit to you first submit to you. Forget somebody else. You can't submit to nothing else outside of you. So once you submit to you, and that means healing up your junk in your backyard. Once you get that and you connect with whatever higher power you call it, once you get that down pat, okay, now I can attract the person that will have the same attitude as I do. But if we, you know how Christians say unequally yoked, it's very true. Like if you're doing the work on you, there's no way your light is going to be too bright for something that's going to be cursing you out, talking you crazy, degrading you to be in your circle. It's not even possible. But if you are functioning under that vibration, then you will be okay with that. So until you actually fix your situation and brighten up your own light, you will then attract your light, and then you won't even have to even try to submit. It'll be by default. But trying to submit to another person because that's what we should do, no. Submit to you first, then submit to the person that the being that sent you here, and fix you, and then let everything else take care of itself. Other than that, we're working backwards.
What are some of the things that women can do, in your opinion, that we as Black women can do to aid our men or help our men on their journey towards healing, or help them to begin to break down some of those walls? What are some of the suggestions that you would, just from talking to men and so forth in your groups, what are some of the things that you would suggest to us Black women, in where we could be of a support in that?
That reminds me of a question I saw on Malcolm X movie. He was walking into one of his teachings, and a little white girl asked him, what can I do to help Malcolm? And he said, absolutely nothing. Right? That's how I feel with this. This is not your job. This is technically, as men, I'm saying. But if we're talking about raising little boys, that's a different story. So if we're talking about from the root, if we're talking about raising children, right, then we need to raise our children differently, right? We need to do everything we can to make sure that both parents are there as much as we possibly can and choose better. How about that? But do what we can to raise our children, our boys, differently. But if we're talking about helping a grown man change, there's nothing you can do about that. He has to want to do that himself, because you're not going to be able to do it.
Okay.
No one can change anybody. They have to have a desire within them and hit that wall at some point to say, hey, it's time for me to do something different. Until then, you're going to be spinning your wheels trying to help that person.
Okay. I mean, I guess, go ahead, Alkema.
Brother Vaughn asks, how can I'm sorry, my screen moved. How can one be equally yoked if submission to God isn't first?
That's impossible. That's what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't even submitted to you, how can you, first of all, if you haven't submitted to your change, even notice that you need change, what are you submitting to in another person?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you have to submit to you first, and then God will come get you. But God ain't coming to get you if you're hard-headed.
Have you encountered any like pushback in creating this space? Because there's a guy on YouTube, I can't think of his name right now. It's not coming to me, but it's not coming to me. He has chocolate brother with locks. But sometimes I listening to his program, and some of the pushback, it comes from like women, and I don't understand why we wouldn't want our men to have these, like, I don't understand that part. Like, I'm just like, okay, do we not want to heal along with us? Especially if we're talking about those of us who prefer only Black men, right? How are we, if you focus on your healing, you want the men to be focused on theirs as well, because who are we doing relationships with? We're doing relationship with each other, right? And so have you encountered like any pushback, like maybe someone saying like, why do men need a space, that space, or even from men, or just in general?
I've had a few, not a lot, but I've had a few. And I just always associated with, just to be blunt, ignorance. They don't know any better. I can't be mad at this person because she's definitely sick. That's how you feel. You can't, if you're going to procreate, basically what you're saying is men is only good for you to have sex with and give you a check. That's what you're basically telling me. You don't need him whole to be a good person. So that's a sick person that thinks that way. I'm a firm believer that I don't really necessarily believe in all of these separatisms of healing. I know we need to do our own work,
right?
But at some point, where's the meeting of the family coming together? When do we heal collectively? When do you get to really hear what I had to say in this ministry class? When do I get to hear what you said in your women energy class? So I can know how you truly feel inside, and you can know how I truly feel inside.
That's true.
If only the women know and only the men know, then you really ain't to heal anything.
But wouldn't that be in practice? I'm sitting here thinking about what you're saying, but I'm thinking if both parties are learning individually how to heal themselves, and then they collectively come together, that I think in practice is when we'll learn the things that we've learned from, you know what I'm saying? Especially if you were with this person prior to the healing. And so you'll see the differences once you merge back together, and basically in practice.
If you know how to apply it. See, the thing is applicability. How do I apply this information that I'm getting? Just because you went to a healing, just because they took this class for 4 weeks, doesn't mean that they have shed off all of the dirt that they came into this class with in 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That's not possible. So we have to learn how to apply this to our daily life. So when I go back home to my wife, I'm not married, I'm just using this analogy. When I go back home to my wife after taking this class, and then she's learning maybe she's learning what she learned, but we haven't technically learned what we, like I said, what we expose in these classes. You need to hear what I feel. I need to hear what you feel. And until I actually hear what you feel, I can't empathize with what's happening. We're still on the opposite ends of the spectrum. But that's why we definitely have in our Re-and-E, we have a femininity class too, that we bring everybody together so that we can put stuff on the table, be vulnerable together. What the OJ say? I cry together, we cry together, right?
I I think that a lot of that that what Alchema is asking about, like I feel like that happens in the I say in field work. It's like people that go to college for years, and they get on the job, you know what I mean? And it's like, it doesn't compare. What you learn in the classroom, and now to put that thing, like you said, to apply it, applicability, that's a whole different level of learning, a whole nother level of education. So you could be in the classroom all day, every day, and until you get in that field, right? You can't really say that you have the experience. People say I have the experience because I have a 4-year degree, but how long have you been in your field working? And I guess I think about it the same way, where you have people who are separate, doing their own separate things, but at some point you have to apply that, right? And applying it, I think from what you're saying, you're right. I mean, some people is like, I went to a retreat for 3 days. You know what I'm saying? I'm good now. I'm good. I'm single. I'm ready to mingle. Where my king at? Where my queen at? So yeah, some people do that, and it's like then you get in there, and then it becomes a thing of like, well, it can't be me, it can be him, because I just had that whole healing over the weekend. You know what I mean? And it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. So what you're saying is just like people that go to school, like you have to have some field work. And that field work is these people coming together and applying what they learn in those, sessions or retreats or wherever they've been.
Ifa, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, says protection is out the door for a lot of African American families. Other countries have their men in the forefront and as a backbone of their people, and it's acceptable. However, if the African American men even try to step up, they are immediately killed or contained. Until African American men are in the forefront, we will continue to be slaughtered and imprisoned in various ways. Thoughts?
I think she said a mouthful. That's actually my partner in my Re-and-E thing too, though.
Oh yeah.
But I already know what she's saying. So, but
Yeah.
just clarity purpose of those who may not know her.
So how do you get to that point that she's talking about? How does the Black man become in the forefront for their families, for the community? I mean, what does that look like? How do we get from here to there?
Yeah.
There's a guy on YouTube. You guys probably know about. You ladies probably know about him. His name is Kevin. Was it Kevin Samuels?
Yeah, Kevin Samuels. Mm-hmm.
I'm familiar.
And he talks about I forgot what he calls the men, the high value men, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And the high value men that he talks about a lot is based upon money.
Mm-hmm.
I have never heard someone marry someone. Have you ladies ever told someone that you liked, girl, I just love his character. I want to be with him because he has great morals and character. I've never heard that. But I have heard the fact that they have money, they look good, he smells good, he does this, everything exterior. And men do the same thing. Men marry you for the Coke bottle. Men marry you for that plate of food, right?
Depends on the circles. I think it depends on the circles you in, because I've heard women say that. I've heard.
But I think
I
it's
feel what you're saying.
Of a certain age, though, Alchema.
Yeah, that too. That too. Maturity.
Yes.
Once you get to a more mature level, you do look for more substance in a relationship than just material. But then I feel, and I'm not negating, because I know there are certain subsections of our society
Plenty
that goes on in any age group.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah.
But that just speaks to what he talks about. See, his message is about a man who has money. He mentions nothing really about the character of the guy. Yeah. So why is this guy the lead man that women should want? Because he has money. He can have a whole lot of money and treat you like trash because he has it.
Yeah.
Right? But his character is something that character is the only currency that gets you in a place where your talent won't keep you.
That's right.
Period. So true. But that's not necessarily the things that people pursue first. We pursue, I'm just being honest. I'm not here to fake it and play with it. It's just like we basically, I've done it. Now, the wife the woman I married, I told y'all about. I didn't marry her because of her character. I married her because she looked what she looked like. I'm being honest with you. As I got with her, her character was just shot that I don't know what. And then now I'm stuck in this marriage trying to figure out why am I here. So, and that happens. I mean, again, 50%. Are you telling me that 70% of the women who filed divorce married him because they had good character? I ain't never heard nobody in divorce court because he has great character. I want a divorce, sir. I never heard that.
That's so tricky to me though, Jasir, because it's tricky to me because I feel like attraction, there's some sort of like physical piece aspect to attraction as well. Now, to make that your sole focus in which all your decisions are made, that's where the error comes in. But I don't necessarily think like physical attraction itself, like there's something wrong with that. I feel like that's a part of like our nature, men and women. You have to like what you see to approach it, honestly. Right. But so I just want to be clear on that, because I know oftentimes when we discuss it, I'm just like, there's nothing wrong with attraction. That's kind of what reels you in, but it can't be the thing on which, it can't be the foundation on which you try to build your house. You know what I mean? So I just kind of wanted to put that in.
Absolutely not. I mean, I'm never going to marry an ugly person. It's not going to happen, right? But here's the thing, though.
Might be the one, but go ahead.
I'm sorry.
It's not my thing, okay? I got to be able to look at you after. I got to have something else motivational besides your character to go along with it.
Right, but, and that's what I'm speaking to. Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. But see, the issue is that initial attraction leads into, guess what? Sex. And then that sex is where people get stuck. Now you're stuck and waddling in that emotion of that energy exchange you just gave this person because you were attracted to them. And then by the time you realize that they are no good, or their character is not where you want it to be.
Caught up.
You're in love, you're caught up, right? And you're making decisions based upon those whack out emotions. Now let's just reverse it though. You can be attracted to them all day long. But what if you took your time and got to see how they treated certain individuals and didn't have no sex with them, just hung out with them as friends with them, get to know them, see how they treat the waiter at the restaurant, see how they interact, do they have kids, or how they act with their kids, how they act with their family, just to see who they are as individuals before you take their attraction to the next level. That's where we lose it.
That takes time. And I often be like, what? I get woman, the biological clock thing, but I'm like, I think we need to slow down. Because the more we have these conversations, I'm just like, I feel like there's a slowing down that needs to happen for these processes that we're talking about to take place, to actually like genuinely happen, to where you're trying to get to know someone and you're taking the time and you're asking the right questions. There's a time that requires time. You know what I'm saying? Put in. And I feel like we're just rushing through, relationships, because it's like we feel like that's what we have to be doing. And I'm like, you talk about reimagining manhood. And so when I was asking about reimagine, I'm just like, what does that look like for you when you say reimagine? I'm just like, we need to reimagine what we call dating and getting to know each other. That whole process needs to just be like revamped, or like, I don't know, completely squashed and start from scratch or something, because it's not helping us. It's not helping. A lot of this thing, these what we talk about requires time, and we act like we don't have time, and we do.
Yeah, and not only that, I think, I think a lot of what you're talking about now, that our ancient practices that we've gotten away from, that was so valuable. We look at it, we look at them as, oh, that's old time stuff and back in the day, and it's a new day, and you know what I'm saying? But it's those kind of practices that like the father meeting the young man if he wanted to take his daughter out on a date. You got to first come and meet my parents, because they have to get the approval before, because mama, daddy knows best. There are these people too, twice, sometimes three times your age. They done had that much more experience than you have as a young adult, and they want to make sure that whoever this person is that's taking one, want to take their child out, is worthy. Are you worthy of even being able to take my child out on a date? So all those kind of practices like that we've gotten away from, that's being corny and stuff, is wisdom and value in that.
Exactly.
I know we're going to be wrapping up soon. Jasir, can you give us some testimonies of like success stories, or just like maybe a story that sticks out for you, to where your Menergy class have helped that person, and you've seen like a tremendous transformation. Do you have any testimonies?
Yeah, I have a few.
Okay.
It's a brother that was in my class. He's married. Um, he came to the class with a real tough exterior. Really, hip hop, really hood exterior. And he was pretty much silent for a while in the classes. But like I said, around the third class or so, he began to come out of his shell. And he didn't say it in the class. We talked, like sidebar conversation. And he let me know why he was not comfortable with, letting everybody know what he feels and what he's dealing with at home. And through the conversation, I got him to realize that the issues you're having at home, it is not your wife, it is you. I told him, because I'm a firm believer that relationships are nothing but your mirror showing up to let you know what you look like today. And in his mind, in the beginning, he couldn't see that. It took me having a conversation with him and his wife, and me having to break both of them down, because again, it's not just him, it's her mirror also. Mm. So once he was able to see what it was, and she was able to realize what it was, and then she became vulnerable, it kind of opened up a space for him to now see his wrong in the equation. And after that conversation, we had like maybe 2 or 3 more meetings with him. But after those conversations, they have completely turned the corner. Like completely became a different couple, completely different couple. He's become a different person. He's more aware of what he's not doing and what he needs to do and what she needs from him, and then vice versa for her also. But that teaching, that understanding, I said something to him one day, because he was like real demanding of her. And I said, brother, you're acting like you're worthy of being called the king, but you haven't built the kingdom yet. And the kingdom is not just a castle. The kingdom comes with emotions and other things along with it to maintain the kingdom. But you haven't done that yet. And you're demanding her to praise you as you are the king of the situation, and you haven't even given her enough to come out and even help you to maintain it. How does that work? And I'm sorry, go ahead, Eve.
No, finish your point.
And it took him back. He didn't admit it in that conversation, but he later on texted me, let me know, bro, man, that right there broke me completely down. He was actually, he said he was crying, but he didn't want to call me crying. So after that, he just became a different person. He just consults with his wife a whole lot more. They communicate super well. I talked to them like about a week and a half ago. They're doing really well. But yeah, I have a lot of those type of conversations. Some are not married, some are married. The ones that are not married are the tougher ones to crack because they don't have a mirror in front of them to deal with every day. But yeah, it works.
Yeah. And I know we run out of time, but I definitely want to get this point in because I think it's important not for us not to leave it on the table like we did. But Brother Vaughn has mentioned something when we were talking about the whole attraction, physical attraction part. He says, sisters, not all men marry for looks only. It depends on the maturity of the man. If God is the foundation, the couple has something higher than themselves when time gets rough. Sex gets old. That's for those who can't keep a spark in other areas. A man should learn how to be stimulated, his relationship on a spiritual level. A man that is led by God can lead a family or a woman.
Okay. I mean, no disrespect to my brother Vaughn, but that sounds good on the bumper. But in reality, there's not very many. If I take 10, 20 to 25-year-old young men, probably 9.5 of them are looking for somebody what they look like. That's it.
I was going to respond to that, but we moved along to Brother Vaughn because I saw the comment. Yeah. And I was going to say, like, it's not just men, it's women too. The majority of, this is what I was talking about, attraction. I'm a spiritual person, trust me, but I'm also grounded as well. You know what I mean? And I try not to and we love brother Vaughn. I'm just responding to your comment. I was going to respond and say we were talking about attraction, so that's what Brother Vaughn is speaking to, the attraction piece of the conversation. And I was just when I read the comment in my mind, I was like, yeah, but like I want to say about 80-90% of us, like attraction is what draws you to the person, like for the most part. Now, should we build on that? No, but that is what gets you in. Like, if I see Alkmaar, like if I see Jasir in the street, like whatever is attractive to me, because when we talk about pretty ugly too, I feel like that's subjective.
Right.
As well. Honestly, now my ex-husband would beg to differ. He feel like a beautiful woman is beautiful hair, and in Ethiopia and in Antarctica, like that's how he feels. For me, I'm just like, no, I feel like it depends on what you find beautiful or whatever. So I know that attraction, it differs from person to person, but I don't want us to pretend that attraction is not a big part of how we connect. You know what I'm saying? Not attraction that's based on societal beauty standards.
Right, because I'm wondering, yeah, it can't be for that, because then people, because I mean, the typical beauty standard, most people aren't.
Correct.
But those people are getting married, so somebody's attracted to them.
Right. So I'm saying when we're talking about ugly, when you had mentioned ugly Jasir, I think that's kind of probably with the attraction piece is what Brother Vaughn is speaking to, you know, and I'm saying like attraction does play a big, maybe it's not a big part. It's not a big part. It doesn't play a big part in maintaining the relationship, but it plays a big part in initiating and starting it. You that's just it. I'm not approaching or allowing a man in my space that I have no attraction for. That's just not how that happens. It just doesn't. But just say you can respond to it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, maybe I shouldn't have said it, so I apologize for saying ugly. I don't think anybody's ugly. I'm just saying a person that's not attractive to me. Let's just say it like that. All right. If a person is not attractive to me, I'm not even going to talk to her. It's just not going to be a conversation I'm going to have with you in that way. Therefore, I can never marry. So, but I hear what he's saying. I understand what he's saying, But the issue is that I like to deal with reality and applicability. Again, 50+% divorces, 70% are filed by women. It's a whole lot of attraction, not a lot of staying. I'm just saying. So if men were actually leading with godly views, then why is this not in the opposite direction? That's just not happening. So someone's leading with impulses and looks, other things. And then when they figure out it's not what it's cracked up to be, hey, divorce, like it's what the reality is. I'm not here for the bumper stickers. I'm only here to deal with the reality. That's it. Because if it was different, if it was a godly world, then we wouldn't have nothing going on that we have going on right now. Period. I'm sorry. It just wouldn't.
Yeah. Now who's getting it right then? You know, who's that 20% or that half, the other half that are getting it right then?
What are they doing?
Yeah. I mean, isn't that a lot of religious people though? I mean, you know, in all fairness, isn't it a lot of Christians out there that are married and happily and raising families and, you know?
I'm not in the Christian realm, so I can't answer that question. So I have no idea. Totally not my arena. But again, I guarantee you the 50% or the 70% of women following, I guarantee you they believe in the man on the cross. Because there's not very many spiritual practices in America that's that high as population. It's not that popular here in America. The popular and dominant religion here in America is Christianity.
So in your workshops, what is the spirituality that you are utilizing in your workshops to help the men towards their healing as far as their manhood is concerned? Like, if it's not Christianity, because if you're saying majority of us come from that, then I'm assuming that when people enter into your workshop, they're coming in probably with the, you know, Christian background, right? And so if you're introducing something different, what does that look like? Is there a clash? Do they have a hard time receiving it? You know, like, what does that look like? And what exactly, what spiritual system is there? It's being utilized to help our men towards their healing and recognizing what manhood really is.
Well, let me first say this. The spiritual practice that I do practice has no quarrels with any other religions, okay?
Did you tell us the spiritual practice? Is it that you can't tell us? Because I think I know what it is. It's in your name.
Is it?
Oh, no. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm getting there. I gotta
Okay,
get my
I'm sorry.
prerequisites here, okay? But it has no quarrel with Christianity, Islam, or anything else, okay? But to be specific, the practice that I do is called Ifa. All right. So Ifa is not a spiritual practice that's, you know, jealous of anything else. You can't do this if you do this and that. No. But now, when I do, to answer your question again, when people do come into our classes that are not of Ifa base, it is hard for them to retain and accept the information that's being given to them up front. Because again, their mind is trained one way. And the things that Ifa teaches is not taught to us growing up in this society, in church, in school, or at home. It's a different teaching. Some things are similar, but a lot of it is so different. The things that are at its core are just different. They're just different. They just are. So it's in order to be in a relationship like this that we're talking about, it takes serious sacrifice to do that. Because I was talking to a couple yesterday, and they're having issues, right? And he's telling this young lady, because in his mind, he loves her so much. And I had to stop him in the middle of the conversation, like, brother, love ain't gonna be enough. When are you going to correct who you are? Right? Love is not going to correct you. You have to correct you. And maybe when you correct you, this will be more acceptable to this person that you want to be with. But as long as you keep this professing love, what is that changing? Absolutely nothing. So in this spiritual practice, it takes you to sacrifice. I'm talking on multiple levels, not just one little basic level, but a whole lot of levels. Sacrifice things you once did for the things you want to do now. And that's hard for a lot of, I'll say, I'm starting to sound like I'm bashing Christianity. I don't want to sound like that. But at the same time, the reality of it is this. They're used to someone else sacrificing for them. The whole idea of sacrifice is Jesus sacrificed his life on the cross for you, for your sins. You basically, all you got to do is say,
You good. Yeah.
Right? In other words, you really ain't got to do nothing.
I can see what you're saying.
In this one, you have to do the work. There's nothing coming to save you.
Okay.
To stop you from hurting yourself or hurting another person. Only you can do that. There's nothing going to stop white supremacy from existing. You have to do that. Like there's nothing coming to save you. So in what we do, it takes you to sacrifice yourself to do this work. And your job is to do this work sacrificially in this life before you return back to the essence and get your job done. That's it. In other arenas, that's not the case.
So I have one more question. Someone, Marissa on the feed, she said, "What are some of the main characteristics that Ifa men are expected to display?"
Good question. Well, we have a list that anybody who follows Ifa, men or women, are supposed to follow. There's things like okay, let me put it this way. There's things in Ifa. There's a thing we call a Yewo. There's a thing we call Ire. The Ire are the great things of life, the blessings of life. The Yewo side are the things that we pretty much don't like in life, right? So as a follower of Ifa, you're supposed to do the good things in life and avoid the negative things of life. That's your job. That's your sole job. Before you die and leave this planet, you're supposed to have conquered that before you leave here. Not like right now, not when you're born, but throughout this process of life, you're supposed to conquer that. So some of the things are like on the erase side, I'll say, is truthfulness, telling the truth, letting your words that you say to someone be verifiable through investigation. Number one, notice I said your words. Secondly, you have to be honest. Truth and honest are not synonymous. Okay, it starts off with truth, but the honesty comes with where you have to do an action behind the truth you just told. You have to take action doing something with it. So I can tell you, baby, I cheated on you. I'll never do that again. Am I being honest? Have I solved the issue that made me go cheat on you? Because if I didn't, I'm going to do it again. So I have to be honest. You have to be benevolent as a man of Ifa and a woman of Ifa. Benevolent meaning that you got to do things without expectation from another person. In this society, people do things with expectation. Like if, for instance, if you're married and your husband pisses you off one night, you don't make him dinner the following night because you're still mad at him. That's not benevolent. Benevolent is you do it despite his irritation, despite whatever happened, you're doing it because you're supposed to, and you don't expect nothing back from him or her. That's 3. 2, understanding. People fight with each other and battle with each other because, again, like we said, who's trying to understand a black man's issue in this country? Nobody. So being understanding of another person's plight will probably prevent you from exhibiting anger towards them.
That's key.
Because if you empathize with them, you can understand where they're coming from. But if you don't understand their story, it's easy for you to be angry with them. Hopeful. You have to be hopeful. I can admit that I had problems with hope before.
A lot of people do.
Exactly. Hopeful, but hopeful again is another action because it's like patience. It doesn't require you to sit still and hope it just happens. you have to be hopeful in the midst of the action you're taking, knowing that the action that you're putting towards it is going to reap fruits of your labor. That's being hopeful. Again, patient. I kind of already tapped on that. Patient is not sitting still. It's patient is taking action while doing something, but still being willing to go through the war, go through pain, go through hurt, go through irritation, and go through things being pushed behind or behind schedule, but still doing the work, knowing that you'll get there eventually. Patient. Dedicated. Dedicated meaning that divorce is not an option. Dedicated meaning that we're going to see this through despite of what's in front of us. The last one is humble. You have to be humble to be a person of Ifa. And humble does not mean allowing yourself to be abused by somebody. Humble just means that you don't have this super high absorbent value of yourself that makes you react with pride.
So just as you were speaking, and going down those in response to Marissa's question, I was a Christian. My father is a Muslim. I know people who practice spirituality outside of the Abrahamic religions, and people who adhere to other religions, whether it's Buddhism, whatever that, you could think of, and you find very similar principles in all of them that requires use. You know what I mean? So like, even when Alkema was talking about the divorce piece and saying like most of those people are religious people, because there is that thing that divorce is not an option. That's very prevalent in Christianity. And I'm not talking about, yes, the divorce rate is high, but there's also that other side of that too, where you have people who are, even if they have to sleep in separate beds, okay, they're like, we will not be getting divorced because God hates divorce, okay? Then you find all of those principles. Patience. There's the teaching of God being long suffering, okay? And so therefore we must be long suffering. The idea of dedication and hope and all of these things. This is like all spiritual systems have this. Religious. Christianity, Islam. Just even like, I don't know. Let me think of like African spiritual systems, all of those things, you find those common principles in them as well. So I don't know if you would say like this is exclusive to Ifa or, okay. So you're just saying this is what you use in your work, this particular spiritual system.
Like I said, these things are not, Ifa, I'm not going to get into the chronology and the politicalness of the whole thing.
Okay.
But what I will say is every practice. I was a Christian. I'm born in America. Of course, I was a Christian at some point. I've heard a lot of this stuff. I was in the Nation of Islam for a while. So I heard some of that stuff through the teachings of Islam. Now, the difference, though, here's where the boy meets the man. The difference is in this particular walk, which is the reason why I'm stuck with it.
Okay.
Is because it makes you do something for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That other religions do not. Okay? You will hear about it. You will hear about it in Christianity in the church. You will hear about it throughout the Bible, Job being patient, all of these things. But again, like I said in the beginning, I'm about applicability. Who's applying this information? Now, what is your motivation to apply this if all I got to do is repent on Saturday, go to church on Sunday, wake up on a Monday and do it all over again? It's a difference. Ifa and this type of spiritual practice holds your foot to the fire. You will not be able to do what you want to do. It's going to bring you to your knees if you decide to fight against it. It just is. And you're going to have to face that person in the mirror eventually, because you can't put it on another Orisha. You can't put it on an Arumale. You can't put it on the higher power. It is your destiny. That's what Ori is. Ori is a person's head in your mind. That's where your light is, in your mind.
Mhm.
And that's your connection to the person who sent you, or to the being that sent you to this planet. If your mind is corrupted with something else that's diverting your attention from where it should be, then it's going to be harder for you to be able to accept the fact that I need to do something for myself instead of wait for something to come help. Now, I'm gonna say this. This happens in Ifa. Ifa is not
Mhm.
absent of this idea. There's a lot of people who come into Ifa who act as if Orishas are going to save their life.
Mhm.
Not going to happen. I'm not saying that Ifa is purged from that idea. That's not reality. There's a lot of people come in here and they start wearing their leggings. You probably seen them before, wearing their little bracelets and stuff, and they talk about Orisha, Shun, Ogun, all these things like they coming to save them. Not going to happen. As you get deeper into it, you understand that they are there to help you along this journey. That's their job. Your job as a person who was sent to this person, your Ori is to find out what your destiny is and follow it through and get through the process. And nothing is coming to help you and save you in that process but you. Now, there's people coming to help you along the way. You get helpers along the way, but there's no one's going to do it for you. That's what I should say.
Okay. So we're gonna I mean Alchema, I don't know if you had a question, but I know we way past our time. And I wanted you to just mention in closing, what do you want to mention about your next Menergy workshop, when that is, how people could get in contact with you about it?
Yes, I appreciate that. Our website is orieni.com. That's ORIENI.com. That's where everything is, all the classes, including Menergy. If they want to call us, they can call us at 310-362-8191. 310-362-8191. But everything that we do is on the website.
Okay, got it. Okay.
I
Any-
just wanted to make a brief statement, real brief. Just how it sounds to me, and who am I? I'm just a small fish in a big pond, but it sounds to me that there are wisdom and a lot of things that we could benefit from all walks of life to help our situation better. Because I think about African spirituality, and I said, well, Africa ain't in the best of shape themselves right now. You know what I'm saying? So if we're saying that this one way is the best way, but we looking at the example of those who are practicing it and they aren't doing too much better than anybody else who's practicing other things, then that leaves me to question, is that really, you know what I'm saying? Is that really the best way? So and I'm just saying all this to say that I think that, and believe you me, I'm not an advocate for Christianity at all. I was just on my page this morning talking about white Jesus. But I'm saying that I do know some Christians that have healthy, wholesome family units. I know Muslims with some. I know those who practice African spirituality with some. And I know, and you can go down the list. And I know some who are shambles. Muslims relationship who are in shambles, and Christian relationship, and African people who are in shambles. So to me, I think it boils more down to the character of the individuals involved and what they are willing to sacrifice to order to you know what I'm saying, to make their situation a better one, regardless of what it is you're practicing. So I don't know. That's just my 2 cents, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
Can I chime in on that one real quick?
Sure.
As far as Africa go, that was one of my questions when I first came into it. I'm a person who analyzes everything, so that was one of my first questions. But as I stayed around and I saw, the issue is, though, remember, Africa was conquered already, the entire continent. Mm-hmm. So when it was conquered, what was left there? Islam and Christianity. So even the place where Ifa comes from, which is Nigeria, mm-hmm. it's more Christian than it is Ifa. That's the reality of it. So the thing is, what was that?
Yes, that's true.
So the thing is, the common denominator is wherever this particular thing goes, it conquers our people and takes our spiritual practices away, and our society is left in shambles.
Ashe. Okay.
Spiritual and cultural. And cultural. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. And thanks again, Jasir, for joining us. This is the first time you've been on the Empower Hour. We appreciate the conversation. For those of you guys that are tuning in, Jasir left his information. If you're interested in the Menergy workshop, 4-week workshop, make sure you reach out or just follow. I think they can follow you, right? On Facebook.
Yeah, they can follow me on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's Jasir Franklin on Facebook. But we have an Reimagining page on Facebook too. They can go follow that too.
Okay. Okay. Alchemy, if you don't have anything else.
I just want to thank you, brother. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your information with us. Very helpful. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
All right. Until next time, we are going to say, if you like what you heard, make sure you share. And we'll see you guys next Monday at 8 p.m. Same time, same place. All righty. Peace out.